hold of. I'll get straight to getting some more opinion and reaction and interpretation for you. Joining me here on College Green beside Westminster are Femi Olawale from Our Future, Our Choice, and also Tom Harwood from Guido Fawkes. Tom, first of all to you, Theresa May speaking in Wales earlier today, we heard her say that the message from the votes that we're seeing here, the votes and how they've gone not well, for the Conservatives clearly, is that just get on and deliver Brexit. That's what the voters want. But is that the message, do you think, that's being delivered to the Conservative Party?
I think there's a deeper message that was probably more expressed through the words of the heckler who protested during that speech than the words of the Prime Minister herself. There has been an absolute tsunami of really animosity towards the Conservative Party right across the country. Actually, in the seats that the Tories have picked up, even in places like the North East, it's where their vote has fallen, but fallen by slightly less than the Labour parties. This is an incredible election where the whole British public has really put two fingers up at both major parties, and you can really see why. With the absolute prevarication that we have been stuck in, this stasis that we find ourselves in, it is an absolute disgrace that 3 years ago people voted to leave the European Union, and that decision has not been enacted yet. So really it should come as no surprise that the two main parties that committed to enacting that decision in the election 2 years ago, that they've failed to deliver on their commitments. It's no surprise that they're being absolutely punished.
Femi, what's your interpretation of what we're seeing?
Well, I mean, the basic interpretation is if you look at the board, the Lib Dems and the Greens, the two parties that support a referendum on the Brexit deal, went up by about 600 councillors, whereas the Tories and Labour have lost about 1,000 between them. You can see it quite clearly, and the one thing that's uniting the country is we have seen the majority of politicians spend the last 3 years ignoring all of the issues that people really care about that affect people's lives, the NHS, investing in those areas that have been forgotten. None of that is being addressed because of Brexit. And the two parties have spent the last 3 years focusing on something completely undeliverable.
But does the vote reflect perhaps an ongoing split in the country, certainly an ongoing split amongst MPs?
Well, yeah. I mean, we have parties that are saying we need a referendum on this deal, but we need to be really clear. There is no Brexit that people will actually get behind, because the deal that they've negotiated is so terrible that nobody wants it. On
Tom,
either side.
Tom, you're shaking your head.
Well, that's patently not true. Parliament has voted for a deal. They voted for the Brady Amendment. They voted for basically the withdrawal agreement, but with alternative arrangements to deal with the Northern Ireland border issue.
Doesn't exist.
Let's just try and focus a little bit more closely on today, though.
Yes.
What does today mean for how Brexit proceeds from here, with the European elections, of course, coming up fast?
Well, I think today puts a marker down, really. We saw that there were no Change UK, the independent group, Remain Alliance, whatever you want to call them, candidates standing yesterday. Similarly, there were no Brexit Party candidates standing yesterday. And also, across most of the country, across great swathes of the country, there weren't even UKIP candidates standing. So there weren't many places that the voters could express their anger. In many places, Brexiteers have actually, conversely, opted for parties that ostensibly are Remain parties, just to vent their anger at the main parties. We've seen this in the North East, in heavily Brexit areas, returning Lib Dems, for example, who campaigned on local issues rather than European issues.
Is it just a protest vote, though? Obviously, local issues do come to play in local elections, clearly, but this has been very much about the national issue of Brexit as well. But Femi, do you think it's just been a protest vote where the Lib Dems and Greens and others have done so well?
They've done well because they've actually been clear, whereas neither the two parties have been clear. Neither the two main parties have been clear. You've got the Tories standing behind a deal that most Brexit voters do not want, a deal that means that we follow the rules of the EU but give up our dominant position in setting those rules. And you've got Labour basically trying to do a fudge. They tried a fudge in 2017 in the general election, and that sort of worked, and they got a relative victory. Now people are saying, hang on, we were supposed to leave it in March. Labour's still not coming down properly on either side of this thing. We need a people's vote. That's the only way forward.
Just one line of response from you, Tom.
It's a very Westminster interpretation to say that the people of Sunderland voted for the Lib Dems for a second referendum. We've seen the literature. They were talking about local issues. They were talking about waste from Labour councillors. They were talking about expenses. They were not talking about Europe.
And that's the thing. People actually want to get on with the real stuff that needs to be done.
So let's leave so we can sort it out.
And then spend the next 10 years negotiating a deal.
Tom.
We won't get
Sorry.
onto those things.
We are out of time. time.
Cheers.
We can continue this conversation off air, but we are out of time for the
Cheers.
moment. Femi Oluwelu from Our Future, Our Choice, and Tom Harwood from Guido Fawkes. Back to you, Hugh.
Anita, thank you very much.